Why was doubting Thomas? What's the purpose of that story in the New Testament? It seems kind of random, but also he was allowed to touch Jesus before the ascension. Um, Mary was not. Why? What's the deal with that? Seems like there was the same reason I believe was given to both, but yeah. So the whole purpose of Thomas' story just seems to be out of place. Let me know what you think about that.
You went to the end of chapter 20, we were introduced to a brand new pericope, a brand new module, a brand new segment in John. And there we have the story of doubting Thomas. Now, the doubting Thomas story is unique to the book of John. And the purpose of this story where Thomas was not around initially when people met Jesus, and he says, unless I see and feel, his only then I'll believe. So he was able to touch Jesus, and then he said, my Lord, my God, which is very intriguing. And then Jesus says, we are told in John in this story, that, blessed is those who haven't seen, who haven't touched and believe. Okay, so that's very critical. And then chapter 20 ends with verse 31, where it says that all this book was written so that you might believe. Everything was written so that you might believe. And that's how chapter 20 ends. And that's how the original John, the book of John ends. 21 is a later chapter that was just put on top of it, which in many ways just mimics the chapter 20. Okay, so the end of chapter 20 is about believing. It had nothing to do with the other story, the other module. These stories just do not have to agree with each other. So whereas Mary was not allowed to hold on to Jesus, it didn't matter that Thomas was, because these are two completely isolated stories. And one of the things I shared with you is that in the Christian Bible, the point is to always be an apologetic, to defend the Christian religion. So most importantly is that you need to believe, even if you don't see, even if you don't touch, as Thomas did, you should believe. And all this was written so you might believe. And it doesn't matter whether it's not consistent with the first half of John chapter 20. I often tell this. I was watching an interview one evening on YouTube with Jerry Seinfeld, who's the main character of a very popular American sitcom. And the interviewer asked him that these stories that came up in this very popular, they didn't make sense. The stories just were so convoluted that one had nothing to do with the other, and it's not they seemed improbable, they just were just completely out. You had to completely suspend any what's happening in the story, because you just want to enjoy the humor. And that's exactly what Jerry said. Jerry said that in fact they didn't care when writing the script, and he was a co-writer on the sitcom. He said, we didn't care if it made sense or not. It wasn't relevant to us. There was only one criteria, and that is it had to be funny. So in every module in the Gospels, the only point is not that they were consistent, where one story was consistent with another story, where Matthew 28 is consistent with John, or that John, the first part of John, is because it was the second part of John. But what's happening is you have a development. You talked about the ascension. So you have the mentioning of the ascension in John, but actually the actual ascension and when that takes place is only implied in John, as in Matthew and Mark. It's clearly in Luke and Acts. So all of their reference, when exactly that happens, is unclear. But what is very important is in the earlier stage, Jesus saying that he is subordinate to the Father. In fact, Mary's father is his father. And but after the ascension, he book is elevated to the status of some element of deity, where Doubting Thomas says, "My Lord, my God." Now, what is meant in the book of John is not that Jesus is the equivalent of God, but he's already my Lord, which means he's elevated in status. So that's significant, that's happening there. But that they don't agree, it doesn't matter if they agree. It's not important if they agree. The important thing is that each one delivers the punch. And the punch, of course, is, this is why the New Testament works so well on a personal level. Has someone ever not believed you, not trusted you? Yeah. And you were telling the truth and people didn't believe you? Yeah, so people can relate to this story. Like, do I really have to prove, who I am? So people then, read the end of John and go, I don't want to be like Thomas. I want to be the blessed person who believes. And you could be sure that's the intent of this last segment of John 20, because that's how it ends. John 20 ends that all this was written, this whole gospel was written, so that you might believe. So you might believe what? That Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and by believing in him, you'll have everlasting life. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Luke 1:6 doesn't agree with, Paul. It doesn't matter. No one cares. The point is each piece, each segment, this is not a sitcom. It's much more serious. Each segment is designed to deliver a different bite. Okay, you got that? A different bite. That's a really great question. Thank you.
Hey guys, I decided that on all of the shorter videos that are anywhere from 5 minutes to 15, 30 minutes, I'm going to add an extended blank session at the end so that I can live stream them, because I'm getting a lot of messages from people that they're missing the actual live interaction chat, the chat room. So by doing this, they won't all be the same length of extended plays, but this will be benefiting everybody who really does enjoy the YouTube chat. So you'll see just an image at the end and then just a lot of silence for another 10 to 15 minutes. So you guys can log off whenever you want to, but this will give you guys plenty of time to finish up your chat messages. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
If you enjoy this channel and the content, and it has changed your life, or perhaps the life of a loved one or a close friend, would you please consider supporting this work? You can click this link and it'll take you directly to my website with a donate button. Or there's a Patreon link and a mailing address for snail mail if you would prefer. If you do donate, please do me a favor and leave me a phone number where I can contact you and thank you properly. I hope you all have a wonderful 2025. Shalom.